Today we're getting under the hood of Dr. Eboni January, widely known as Dr. EJ. She's a daughter, sister, women's advocate, and a board-certified OB-GYN, surgeon, best-selling author, and nationally recognized leader in maternal health, preventative wellness, and healthcare equity. A proud native of East St. Louis and now based in St. Louis, Missouri, Dr. EJ has dedicated her career to increasing health literacy and transforming how America approaches care, especially for women, families, and underserved communities. She is also a proud Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated member, exemplifying a lifelong commitment to service, sisterhood, and leadership. Licensed to practice medicine in 15 states, Dr. January has delivered over 8,000 babies and offers women compassionate, culturally competent care nationwide. She is a council appointee for the Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, a National ECHO Extension for Community Healthcare Outcomes Hub member, and a principal investigator in clinical trials on fibroids and endometriosis. Her clinical experience and expertise matches her national leadership in class, culturally and linguistically appropriate services, training, and her fierce commitment to preventative health education. As a multi-business owner, Dr. January leads a diverse portfolio that includes a women's wellness spa, cosmetic recovery homes, and a healthcare consultancy specializing in education-first solutions. Through her brand, Bosch's Lifestyle, she delivers a powerful combination of supplements, fitness programs, and mindset coaching, helping clients achieve long-term wellness by shifting from reactive to proactive and preventative care. Wow. Welcome, Dr. EJ.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited.
It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm really excited.
Well, it's season 4, Women's March for Mental Wellness, and I know that you have a very interesting and inspiring story to share. If it's okay, can we get going?
Of course.
Wonderful. I love this question. And as I say all the time, I ask everyone this question. But what's beautiful is the different answers we get. What was that inflection point that got you on your mental health and wellness journey?
For me, it was, I practiced in St. Louis for some time, and being a board certified OB-GYN, what I saw firsthand was that women would come into my office with physical symptoms. And I'm a fixer, okay? I'm a fixer by nature. And when I couldn't find something physical, I was like, this has to be mental. So many times when people were presenting themselves with physical symptoms, it wasn't physical at all. It was mental issues that were being left unaddressed, right? And so it was at that point that I stated, we have to address the mental side of things. This is not always physical that are leading women to my office. These are mental health issues that are leading women to my office. And so it was at that point that I started adjusting my practice to the mental side of things, right? So it wasn't uncommon for you to come into my office and I was addressing the mental side of things. So the front desk would want to send them down a hall to internal medicine, right? And I would say, no. They are on my schedule for anxiety because I'm comfortable treating that, right? How I trained in both residency and medical school, I had a very deep understanding of psychology and psychiatry. So I was comfortable treating the basic foundation, right? If it was something deeper, then obviously I would send them for a referral to psychiatry or psychology. But if it was something that I felt comfortable treating, then I would treat that. They felt comfortable coming to me. And so I would treat that first. And then if it was something deeper, then I would send them down the hall. So what I found was that I had to treat the mental component before I can treat the physical aspect. So it was at that point where I had to integrate the mental component into my practice.
Mental health is women's health, health. And so I think it's wonderful. And I think it's interesting, Dr. EJ, the way you said, I have to treat the mental first before the physical. Why don't you take us a little on an insight journey around that? Because I think that's fascinating.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So you have to understand, we live in a day and age, especially in the community that I serve, where and I said this on another podcast, is that women are everything to everyone and nothing to themselves, right? So many times their health comes last, right? And so the mental is the foundation for everything. And so in order for me to even get you to pick up a prescription, you have to even be in the right mental state for me to say make an appointment with me or even go to the pharmacy to pick this up. And so I have to address those things to wrap your mindset around the fact that physical health is even important, right? You have to even make it important enough for you to get to me. And so for me to even make physical health even important, I have to address the mindset, the mind frame surrounding mental health or physical health. So you can't even get to me, right? Before if you don't have the right mindset. So you have to start there.
And I think what's interesting about that to me is the communities you serve, because the mindset being an issue to just even get them in to take care of themselves. And I love the way you described as well, Dr. EJ, the fact that women are so busy taking care of others that they fail to take care of themselves. Of course, you did it more eloquently, but I think the interesting thing to me about that is it doesn't matter where you are in the food chain of life, if you will, as a woman. I think that's something that's a universal truth, that women are so busy taking care of everybody else. And, just sitting here taking it all in and like absorbing what you're saying, it makes total sense to me, because if we work on the self-care, the mental side of us, of course, physical comes into the self-care, but then we're able to treat the physical side. And so that makes so much sense. So you've gone on this journey. So you spotted this and identified this. And so talk about like, how has it sort of transformed or evolved, if you will?
Well, one is it's really transferred into myself, right? As we stated, we talked previously how now I'm a caregiver, and we're gonna do under the sisterhood of caregiving, right? Just as a little a drop there, we're gonna talk about that. That I'm a caregiver to my dad, and so I'll give an example today. When I first started taking care of my dad, I'm up and down these steps. Anytime, any cry, I dropped everything, right? But then I started getting in the habit. What I started seeing was it was wearing on me. I started gaining weight. I'm really into fitness. I'm really, really into wellness. And here I am pushing wellness onto my patients and the women that I serve. But I no longer was doing it myself. And so when I realized was that, hey, if he is not cold, if he has not fallen on the floor, if he is fed, if he is safe, I have to take care of me first, right? And so in the morning, the one thing that I do is I meditate and I pray. That's the first thing to get my day started. And so I know on the cameras that he's fine. If he cries and he's yelling out, I know he's fine. I'm going to make sure that I block that out, and I'm going to put those headphones on, and I'm going to meditate, and I'm going to pray before I get that day started. Because when I run down those stairs and I get started, I change him or feed him, I'm no longer going to do those. And then things just started spiraling out of control. And so I have to take that time for me. So it really spilled over into how I do things for myself. So when I recognized it in my patients, I also started recognizing it in myself, right? And so I had to take my own advice, and it really showed up as a caregiver with my dad. And now I do it for myself. If he's completely safe, he's not hungry, he's not wet, and it only takes a few minutes to tackle your mental health, to breathe. Sometimes it's just a matter of breathing. It's just meditation only takes a few minutes. Sometimes your mental health only takes just a few minutes. And so I had to learn that. And that's what I teach women, is that sometimes it's just a few minutes, just a few seconds to gather yourself and to spend just a few. If you don't have just a few seconds on yourself, what are you doing?
But I want to honor what you said about learning it as a physician and treating and serving your patients and giving them guidance to live this way, and then recognizing I'm no longer doing that for myself.
Yeah.
And so I want to applaud you for seeing that, because often it's so easy to go out as the expert for others, but the expert for within. But then the other side of it is then you're role modeling that. You're not just talking it, you're walking it. And when
Absolutely.
you feel better, they feel better and they see it. They see you shine. And so
Yeah.
I think that's fantastic. So, and so you're doing that every day. So talk about your mental health as it relates to, I'd love to understand as it relates to being a physician, like how you are applying that, how you're thinking about that in your practice and the way you're seeing your patients.
Really, as it pertains to my patients, it takes a village, right? That's what I learned because I couldn't do it all. I could only do so much. The breadth of my understanding as it pertains to mental health, it went so far. And so what I do when I'm out and about, going to events, what I started doing was deepening not just my understanding, but my Rolodex, honey. I started, getting those resources and community-based organizations that had access and resources for my patients, the community-based organizations or women who were experts in sound therapy, yoga instructors, things of that nature, so that when my patients came in and they needed things that I could not give to them, I made sure that I could point them in the right directions. And so that's what I started doing. I started growing tentacles is what I started doing. And so now I can point you into directions and resources that were available to you that I couldn't deliver myself because I was only one person. And so that's how my practice grew, was I started learning more and networking more so that I could offer more to my patients, but through other people.
I love it. Well, you do so much with that. It's like giving back in a way. And to your point of not just the tentacles, it's like creating these resources becomes a resource. But when you have that doctor you trust,
Mm-hmm.
anybody they're going to point you to, you're going to go to.
Yeah,
So you
absolutely.
command that authority and you say, look, I can take you and help you with this, but this is going to take you there. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
wonderful that you're building out that network and creating a resource platform for your patients. I mean, and I'm curious because I know that you've authored a book.
Yes.
I want to move on because I think it's interesting that mental health is a big thing within your practice, but as an OB-GYN, and then we'll get into
Mm-hmm.
your book, tell us a little bit about that journey because it's a little different when you're dealing with trying to get pregnant, being pregnant, and of course, delivery and post.
Yeah, yeah. So in my book, I spent a large section on mental health, right? And in that section, there's a large section on resources for mental health, right? So not just places that you can go, websites that you can go to, but things like mindbody.com, websites that you can go to, journaling resources that you can attend, breaking, but education, right? Education is key. When we talk about health literacy, saving lives, the first thing that you have to do is recognize things in yourself, different health disorders within yourself, so that you can go get help, to know that this is not normal for me, but also this is not normal. What resources are available to me if I can't get to the doctor? Let me Google something right fast. And this website is here in this book. And so I spend a large portion of my book dedicated to the mental health component, because we do know that in pregnancy and beyond that mental health is a top cause of morbidity and mortality in pregnant women and postpartum, right? And so what I learned, and I'm very tied into my patients. The thing that they gave me feedback on was that they said, Dr. January, no one talks to us the way that you do, and no one educates, right? And so I was big on education. And so what I learned was that education saved lives, and that also that patients needed to advocate for themselves. And the way that they advocated was that they needed to advocate from a place of education. And so the best advocate was an educated advocate. And so that's when I put together my book, Empowered Motherhood. And you're empowered through education. But
Okay.
in every step of the way, I wanted to make sure that you had a resource, that I combined two things: a resource and education. And so you'll see that throughout the book, Empowered Motherhood. But a large component of that was the mental health component as well, because pregnancy is such it's so taxing, and not just on the mother, but also on the father and the people that are surrounding the mother. And I always tell people that maternal health is everyone's responsibility. We know that it does take a village, and it takes a village as it pertains to the mom. And we see that moms are now dying. There's so many complications, and it's not just in the black and brown community. As you stated in my bio, I'm licensed in 15 states, which means that I don't just see black and brown women, I see all women, right? And I saved lives in all populations, and the complications span all races. And so that's the importance of, this book and getting it in the hands of not just women, but the the caregivers and the people that serve them and the people that love them. And I always tell my patients, bring someone with you that loves you, because I'm going to explain the same thing over to them. Because when you get into that labor room or when you get into the operating room, you won't know anything, or your brain is going to be elsewhere. So they're going to be able to remind you. And also, it's important that many times women, not just pregnant women, but women as a whole, we forget what has been told to us about our health, right? We forget what's been told to us about our body, but that person that loves us sometimes remembers, and they remember something that we forget, and it can be life-saving. I recently had that happen right before a woman was getting ready to get an epidural. Her doula, remembered that she had a disorder that precluded her from getting an epidural, and it saved her life. It
Wow.
saved her life. So
Wow.
it's important. It's so important that not just you as a woman be educated about your body, but the people around you as well.
My eldest just had a baby, and during her pregnancy, things seemed to go pretty well. She had a tough delivery. She was in labor
Mhm.
for 24 hours. She had an interesting, she was part of, instead of having the same OB-GYN every time, she was part of a group, which I guess is common. She ended up having to have a C-section. And in the process of the C-section, I said, honey, let me come. I'll be there just so I can advocate for you. I can ask the right questions. I can make sure you're
Yes.
treated sooner and like get those, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And she
Hmm.
said, no, 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 we got this. We got this. Sure enough, she says, my husband's going to faint during it. Sure enough, he fainted. They carted him out and she was alone delivering her baby. It was horrifying. It was like, it was
Yeah.
not, she was in such, she was 24 hours later. And so I'm like, listen, let me come next time. It
Yeah.
doesn't have
Yeah. I tell these husbands, I said, we don't need three patients.
exactly. But in all seriousness, I think the other thing, what I really like about what you're talking about is every stage of a mother, whether you're trying to get pregnant, the whole process. Mental health is like big,
Yes, it is.
it's such a prominent piece of being able to have a healthy, to be healthy, period. But in that
Hmm.
particular, state, you're elevated, right?
Hmm.
Your hormones, everything's even more, up and
Yes.
down and, sideways, if you will. So
Yes. Yeah. So, and so one of the things that I talk about in the beginning of the book is to optimize your health, right? And we know that food is so important. And, I talk about eating to live and making sure that you're putting the right thing. A lot of times when women get pregnant, they think it's, just the floodgates can open. I can eat what I want, but eating, we have a neurological system in our gut, right? And so what you put into your body is very, very important pre-pregnancy, during pregnancy, after pregnancy. So it's very important that, and it's tied to, your brain health as well. And so you want to set yourself up for success. And, even if you're not, we're talking about mental health, right? So even if you're not trying to achieve pregnancy, what you eat is also tied to your mental health. So be kind to your gut health and your mental health as it pertains to what you eat. And so that's so important.
that all makes sense because of course
Absolutely.
you carry not just the physical weight, there's a sluggishness when your sugar levels,
Hmm.
all that stuff. So that makes total sense. So
Absolutely.
so when did your book come out?
We released it April of this year during Black Maternal Health Week. We started our book tour in DC. Yes,
So,
yes.
so take us on the tour with you. What
Yeah,
happened?
yeah. So it was really good. We started in Washington, D.C. During Black Maternal Health Week. Washington, D.C. is one of the areas that I'm licensed in, and that went very well. We met with some amazing people, some amazing doulas. Mama Toto's Village. I am so pro doula because I believe that this is a team approach. I believe in advocates. And then next we went to New York We took a little bit of a hiatus for the summer because we have some great things going on in Nevada. So we've been back and forth into Las Vegas. The library system out there bought a bunch of copies of the book. So we're headed back to Las Vegas, and we're going to be doing a book discussion tour there in October. And so we're starting there, and then we'll be hitting a couple other a few other states as well. So we're really excited about that.
Going on the tour, you talk about you're licensed in 15 states, that you don't just see Black and brown patients, that you see everybody, that you treat all races. From that perspective, are you getting the patients, are you getting women out there on your book tour hearing this and understanding this from all aspects?
I do. I do. And not just that, surprisingly, let me tell you who else I get. Fathers and support persons of women. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot of men that are now coming out, understanding, wanting the knowledge. And that is what I'm happiest about and most impressed about, because I always say that men, it's no longer okay for you to be innocent bystanders in the exam room, in the labor room. We do have complications that are happening. We do have women who are dying secondary to childbirth. And so we need you all to stand up. We need your help. We need you to be educated. And we need for you all to advocate. And so I'm so happy that I'm seeing more and more men stand up. I'm seeing more and more men want to be advocates. And now we have programs like Dads to Doulas, which is led by Brad Edwards, who's based out of St. Louis. So shout out to Brad. He's fantastic, but he's training dads to become doulas. And so we're really excited about that. And I'm very, very impressed by the men who've shown up while I've been on book tour, who I've met along the way. They've been absolutely fantastic and eager for the knowledge.
Well, I love it. There's two themes here today, education and advocacy. And I love the
Yeah.
fact, well, listen, you're still on the book tour for the empowered motherhood, but maybe the next one is empowered fatherhood. The empowerment is that educational and advocacy piece. The more you know, the more educated you are, the more properly you can advocate for yourself. You have that list of 10 questions to ask the doctor. You're prepared because you know you're at higher risk or whatever it may be, right?
Absolutely. Like an educated advocate is the best advocate. And I say that all the time. And it's the same thing with your mental health. And so even in my courses, so the book goes along with several courses, right? And the first module in the course is the mental health component, where I break down things like depression, postpartum blues. And so that's important to know anxiety, the differences, and also what is the time frame. Is the diagnosis with this time frame versus this time frame. So it's really important to know like the educational piece and health literacy across the board, whether you're pregnant, whether you're male, female, whatever the case may be. It's important to educate yourself as it pertains to your health and your mental health as well.
First of all, I think the postpartum thing, we cannot underestimate what women go through. And it can last I had one interview with Monique Cupid. And interestingly, I don't know if it was her second baby. I don't think it was her first, but let me just like paraphrase the story. She ended up going into serious postpartum depression. And then she started getting perimenopause symptoms. Her depression lasted so long, it wasn't tended to. She was so busy just barely trying to show up her family. But what I think is fantastic is with the work you're doing, with the education, because you're such an authority, Dr. Eboni January, people listen to you and people hear you and they want to hear you. I mean, we're never going to get to everybody, because if people are in denial and don't want to deal, they're not going to deal.
Sure.
But if you can educate, and I think now as well with these younger generations who are much more socially conscious and much more bodily conscious, all of that, that consciousness, I think that you're going to be in a position to really affect meaningful change over the next decade. When you think about it, because when you think about, I was saying when you think about the various generations, I think that the stiff upper lip, just go through it, you'll get through it and move on, and not really acknowledge it, not honor it, not give yourself grace, just keep doing. And so I think that what you're doing with teaching women and really giving them permission to acknowledge that mental health matters from the start is really phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
On planes. They say, put your mask on first. And we've been doing it wrong this entire time. We take care, we deliver these babies, we get married, and we take care of everybody but ourselves. But we have to put our mask on first. And what happens when we put our mask on first? We create stronger families, stronger communities, and stronger futures. And that is it in a nutshell.
I couldn't agree more. I love that. And of course, I love the play metaphor about putting your mask on first, but I like the fact that when we do that, we build stronger families, stronger communities, and stronger futures and future leaders. That's beautiful. I'm curious, Dr. Ebony, how do you march for mental wellness?
At the beginning of this podcast, you read a long bio. As you can see, I do many things. I'm in many rooms. And with that being said, every room that I'm in, every person that I touch, every person that I speak about mental wellness. I make sure that they know that it's not optional. Every conversation, we talk about it. And that's how I march for mental wellness.
That's really powerful. Really powerful. I'm curious if there's anything like that you'd like to share about what's going on, not just with the empowered motherhood, but in terms of the work you're doing, so that our community can hear more about Dr. Ebony.
Well, I have some really great things going on in Las Vegas that I'm really excited about. They have shown me so much. They welcome me, and I'm really excited about that. Last week, I went to a gala that was hosted for autism, and so they were really, really welcoming to me. As I stated, their library system purchased copies of my book, and so they're hosting me in October, and so I'm really excited about that. But not just the library system, but one of the churches out there, Pastor Kelsey West, is going to be helping to launch a program. And so I'm really excited about that. And maybe we'll come back and do another podcast that I'll let you know about. So I'm really, really excited about that work where we'll be able to educate women and meet women where they are in the community to educate them about their health. So it's not just about, hey, buy my book on Amazon to educate you. I'm going to be able to educate you, get a deeper understanding. You'll get me in a nutshell and extensions of me to where we'll be able to create more. We'll utilize church leaders to be able to deliver the message and to educate women. And so that is what I'm doing and really, really excited about. So you'll get to hear more about that.
I love the fact that it's not about book sales, it's about getting in on the ground and touching lives. And it's
Yes.
interesting, we had a conversation, we had our 3-year anniversary a couple nights ago, and one of the women said, who won community leadership, Dixie Lincoln Nichols, she said, you touch one life. And we talked about the ripple effect, and we talk a lot about that. And so your ability to go into the church, into the community, the library, the community, the church, and be able to be accessible to people who would never get access to you
Yeah. Yeah.
is life changing. It's life
Yeah.
changing. So I celebrate you. I think that's amazing. And I know that not only will you shine, but you will leave those rooms feeling so like your heart will burst wide open, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
You
Thank you. I'm
know?
really, really, really excited. You have no idea.
And
I'm
and
really
and I'm
excited.
curious, I want to bring this around back to your practice because, when you're educating a group, the impact of that has that snowball effect, if you will. But then you go and you see individual patients and you deliver babies. So I'm
Mhm.
kind of curious. And then you also talked about, Dr. EJ, you talked about being in all these different rooms. So tell me about, as you look at treating patients versus going into these communities and educating, how do you see that or feel that whole experience?
I have a course called the 168 hours, right?
I'm not sure what that means, but okay.
So there are 168 hours in the week. I'm very strategic with my time, very intentional with my time. I don't feel like you should put yourself in a box. And because of that, you have to be strategic with your time. There's enough of me to go around. And so that's how I see it. And so I don't do all of these things at once, right? And then you get a team. I have an amazing team. It's behind me. They're going to listen to this. They're going to, they sent you over, headshots and everything that you needed. And so I think how I feel about these things is that I feel like I'm not in a box, and, a team is most important. I'm strategic about my time, and I feel like I have to do these things because each one of them is a part of who I am.
That's what I wanted to get at. Because the other things are tactical, how you make it happen, but
Mhm.
how it makes you feel it's part of who you are. I just
Yeah.
love that. Because I love the fact that here you are, a clinician. Clinicians aren't typically out of the box. You're
Yeah.
out of the box. You will not be put in a box. And it
Yeah.
allows you to play and touch many things that stimulates your creativity as a human being, right?
Yeah.
And your ability to push out all this goodness into the world. Of course, education and stuff, but you know what I mean when I
Yeah.
say that, because to give that way, you're giving so much of yourself in so many different ways. And it's easy to go into that box and do that thing really well and deliver
Hmm.
beautiful babies and help families be healthier and healthier versus having to go out and do all these different things.
Yeah.
Because this is like, I mean, and when I say you're so young in your career, we don't need to tell anybody how old you are, but you know what I'm saying? You're
Yes.
fairly young in your career and incredibly accomplished. I mean, 8,000 babies. I
Yeah.
mean, you know what? Wow, that's a lot of babies, which is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I will say this. This is just a shout out to where I trained. Where we trained, we delivered a lot of babies, and they called it the baby factory. So I definitely chose well, and they chose me. And when we go to residence, we do a match program. So anybody that's on the podcast listening, or kids in medical school, there's a match program, and so I chose well, and they chose me well. I'll say that.
That's great.
So.
That's
Yeah.
great. That's great.
Yeah. And then being licensed in so many states and being needed in so many states, I was definitely able to get a lot of experience.
Well, to actually, I wouldn't have even thought to ask you that. So thank you for sharing that. My curiosity now is what compelled you to get licensed in 15 states?
Well, I wanted to see a lot, right? In order for me to be able to help the women that I wanted to help. So I knew when I went to practice in St. Louis, and I listened to what the patients were saying. They said that no one was educated in the way that I was educating. They gave me great feedback in that they said that I was doing a good job, that I was doing a great job, and that I was winning so many awards, and I was everywhere. And I wanted to touch lives on a mass level. And so, in order for me to do that, I wanted to be able to see how things were operating across state lines. And so, that's when I started getting licensure in other states so that I can be able to expand my reach.
I love
Yes.
the fact that you actually took a different approach, was you want to impact many lives as well, but you cross state lines. So you're
Yeah.
continuing to practice, treating patients, treating humanity, right? It's really smart. And, but before we get into the closing thing, I'm curious, what are you seeing across state lines that is unique?
I find it unique that that we operate differently across state lines. It could really help if we took what this state was doing well and what this state was doing well, and we just did that. It will really, really, really help. So, for example, one of the top causes of morbidity and mortality is postpartum hemorrhage. Wisconsin, I went to a hospital in Wisconsin, and it it gets it right. It gets it right. And I'm like, we should do that. And then you have another hospital that just gets this right. And I'm like, we should do that. And then we have, hospitals that work with midwives, and these midwives get it right. And they scrub C-sections, and they do very well. And then you have other hospitals that are not necessarily midwife friendly, and then you have places where they're doula friendly. And I'm like, let's just come together and just take what we do right and just do that. And it's the craziest thing ever to me.
Well, question, are you bringing all of that learning back to your specific hospital health system you're in now and able to bring that? Because you would end up creating a best in class obstetrics department, right?
I'm working on
You're
something.
working on that. I'm sure you are. Remember, you're not in a box. I
I'm
mean,
not in the box.
because that's data, right? That's like you could be creating the obstetrics department of the future, which
I
is
could. I could be, couldn't I?
Yeah, you could be. Okay. All right, we're going to be watching you. Look at those big eyes. This is great. This is really inspiring. This is the last question, and I love this question. One of the things about our podcast, Dr. EJ, is really about sharing stories, your story today, and honoring and celebrating you and your incredible life journey, but also giving a message to other women because hearing from someone like you is really meaningful. And so, what's the one message you'd like to leave women with of all ages, of all backgrounds, and of all cultures?
Your wellness is not optional, and that you should be unapologetic about your wellness. Put your mask on first. You have
Mm.
to put your mask on first, and that's it. And you really can't pour from an empty cup. We are everything to everyone and nothing to ourselves, and we have to stop that right now. Sometimes we just have to let the babies cry and meditate. You be shocked what 2 minutes of meditation will do for you.
I can't thank you enough for getting under the hood with me and for sharing all of your incredible expertise, lived experiences, and you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Under the Sisterhood. If you haven't already, please give us a quick rating and review on Apple or Spotify. And make sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn so you can hear from more amazing women. This podcast is created and hosted by Under the Sisterhood LLC and Elizabeth Elfenbein, produced by Elizabeth Elfenbein and Matt Butler, and edited by Matt Butler. The music is by Ayla Schaefer. Her song, Rose.